them dancing.
That's funny. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday. I'm Jillian Mealy.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for starting your day with us this morning. And we begin with a Fox News alert. The Senate passing tax reform right along party lines, as Republicans could be just hours away now from a major win for their party.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is passed.
All right, the first major rewrite of the U.S. tax code in 31 years, clearing a huge hurdle overnight.
That's right. President Trump touting the accomplishment, tweeting, quote, "The United States Senate just passed the biggest in history tax cut and reform bill. Terrible individual mandate, Obamacare, repealed." Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. with where the bill isn't quite ready for the president's desk, but we are certainly close, Griff.
Good morning, Jillian and Rob. That's right. One more stop in the House before hitting the president's desk. I'll explain. But first, make no mistake, this was historic. The Senate, shortly before 1 a.m., passing the bill straight down party lines, 51-48. All Republicans for it, all Democrats against it. Senator McCain, of course, absent. Vice President Pence, as we saw there, presiding over it. And at times, this was very passionate. Here's Senator Cruz.
Let me ask my friends on the Democratic side of the aisle, are you prepared to look in the eyes of a kid with disability and explain why you said you are cut out? You're really standing up, raising that objection. That ought to be 100-0. All of us should agree on that.
Now, Democrats who plan to use this in the campaign next year slammed it. Here's Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
The Republican tax bill is like pouring gasoline on a raging fire. And though the Republican propagandists may call its passage a political victory, that a year from now, Republicans will be running away from this bill in shame for voting yes.
But Majority Leader McConnell disagrees, saying this means America is ready to soar.
After 8 straight years of slow growth and underperformance, America is ready to take off. Stock market is up. Optimism is high. Coupled with this tax reform, America is ready to start performing as it should have for a number of years.
So here's where it stands. The Senate had to make minor changes to the House bill so it would fit their budget rules. Therefore, the House will have to vote again sometime around noon on this modified version. But it's a done deal and it goes to the president's desk. We'll see. All eyes on whether or not a press conference happens, as the president tweeted. And I guess we may see the president unwrapping his promised Christmas present of tax cuts 5 days early. Guys.
All right, Griff, we will certainly see. Time will tell. Just a few hours. Thank you. Well, not one single Democrat voting yes for the GOP's tax reform plan.
Not a single one. RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany calling out the left for listening to the mainstream media and for pushing their own anti-Trump agenda on this deal instead of voting for the needs of the American people.
Democrats are going to pay for this at the ballot box in 2018. Not a single Democratic congressman or senator voted on the side of the American people. Today marks the day they voted against the American people. They sided with big government. They sided against the American taxpayer. It's a sad day to see that they were aided and abetted by the liberal mainstream media, which has been lying about this all the way along, saying Trump would never get this done. But we are at this point, a historic achievement, because President Trump picked up the phone, lobbied, made this happen, and gave the American people a Christmas gift. This is that in action. This is Donald Trump standing up and passing tax cuts that are uniquely Donald Trump, that take away the ability for congressmen to deduct their living expenses and local lobbyists to deduct their expenses and corporations to deduct their lavish dinners. These are uniquely conservative populist tax cuts, and this is Donald Trump remembering the forgotten man and woman.
All right, Vice President Mike Pence says he is not worried about the House revote, which should happen this morning. The Senate was really the risky one, and Pence saying he believes the GOP is in, quote, good shape.
Demoted DOJ official Bruce Orr expected in the hot seat today over his links to Fusion GPS. And it comes just one day after the FBI's second highest ranking official spent more than 7 hours answering to lawmakers about allegations of bias in the agency. Todd Pirro is here live to break it all down. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Jillian. Good morning to you. 7.5 hours, almost a full workday's worth of testimony. But House Intel Committee members were very tight-lipped about what Andrew McCabe said amid calls for his firing over allegations of conflicts of interest and anti-Trump political prejudice. It is just the latest development in the controversy around text exchange between FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who worked on Bob Mueller's Russia probe, as well as links between DOJ official Bruce Orr, like Jillian mentioned, and Fusion GPS, which created that anti-Trump dossier. Republicans on the committee were also expected to press McCabe on whether he should have recused himself from the Hillary Clinton email investigation. That's because McCabe's wife received money for her Virginia State Senate campaign from donors linked to Clinton.
I don't want this testimony to just occur behind closed doors. One of the things Congressman Biggs and I are fighting for are subpoenas so that before the Judiciary Committee and all of the American people, we can get answers to these questions, expose the bias that we know exists, and ensure that we have a rule of law that we can rely on again in this country.
The American people need them to come in because the bias is so palpable, it's so real, and when that happens, nobody believes that anybody's going to get a fair investigation in any level.
Meantime, the House is preparing to hold a standalone vote to renew a controversial warrantless surveillance program that the intel community says is critical to stopping terror plots. This, as Republican Senators Rand Paul and Mike Lee said they would vote against any government spending bill that includes authorization of that part of the FISA law. Rob?
Okay, Todd, thank you so much. All right, now to a Fox News alert. An intense manhunt expanding across several states at this hour for 2 escaped prisoners, including an accused killer. Ronley Diaz-Pardo and David Allen Anderson broke out of their cell in Chipley, Florida by chipping through the wall underneath a sink and then squeezing under a gate. It is believed they stole a truck during their getaway, officials finding it abandoned in a nearby North Carolina town. Pardo is facing murder and drug charges, and they could be far from Florida now. Breaking overnight, United States citizens killed in a tragic bus crash in Mexico. That bus taking tourists on an excursion to the Mayan ruins flipping over. We've just learned 5 of the 12 people that were killed are Americans. Among the dead, the driver and a child also killed. 18 others were hurt.
Happening overnight, Columbia, South Carolina becomes the first U.S. city to ban bump stocks. The city council voting to approve the measure that bans the attachments of the devices, but does allow the possession of them. Just last month, Massachusetts became the first state to pass a law banning bump stocks. The devices have come under much scrutiny after authorities found the Las Vegas shooter used bump stocks while firing out of a hotel room, killing 58 people.
All right, did the rush to launch Express Amtrak train service come at a deadly cost in Washington state? New questions arise as we learn 2 of the 3 victims killed, Jim Hammer and Zach Wilhoit, were passionate railroad advocates. Claudia Cowan is live in DuPont, Washington this morning with the breaking developments from overnight. Hey, Claudia.
Good morning, Rob. A big question is why Amtrak launched its new high-speed passenger train service before activating a special technology, speed control technology, that might have prevented a derailment like we saw here on Monday. It's called PTC, Positive Train Control, and it automatically stops or slows a speeding train. Amtrak's president says it is critical for rail safety.
We are huge supporters of positive train control. We have all of our capital allocated to get it done, and we've allocated that capital and put all the resources on it. There's no one that wants positive train control more than Amtrak.
Railroads are under government orders to install the technology by the end of next year. It isn't expected to be completed on the 15-mile span where this train derailed until at least next spring. Critics say constant deadline extensions are costing lives.
National Transportation Safety Board has been begging the railroad industry to implement positive train control. And every time it gets close, our Congress pushes it back. It pushes it back, and it keeps doing that. And realistically, thousands of lives we've lost because we don't have this positive train control.
Federal investigators say the engineer who was driving the train was not alone in the cab. He was training a conductor to become familiar with the new route. Given the train was going 50 miles over the speed limit, there is concern the engineer may have been distracted. Investigators say they hope to interview him and the rest of the crew in the next few days. Still a lot of activity here at the scene of Monday's derailment, but state transportation officials say they hope to reopen a 4-mile stretch of busy Interstate 5 later today. Rob, back to you.
Okay, Claudia, thank you so much.
A Fox News alert. Wait for us on your year parties. The terrifying new threat from ISIS targeting New Year's Eve.
And history could be coming to the Hill. Republicans poised to pass their historic tax reform overhaul today. It is early, isn't it? Our next guest said, all right, a Fox News alert, history in the making on Capitol Hill overnight. The Senate approving sweeping tax overhaul, their tax overhaul plan, sending it back to the House for a final vote now. So what does this mean for your wallet?
Joining us to break it down is economist Peter Morici. Thank you for joining us this morning, Peter. Look, I think a lot of people are still confused as to how this is going to benefit them. What we do know is, according to the Tax Policy Center, 80% of people are going to be getting a tax cut, 80% of taxpayers. So in your opinion, how is this going to help the bulk of America, which is the middle class?
Well, it's actually going to be more than 80% in my estimation. But the bottom line here is that most Americans are going to see more money in their paycheck as early as February. As soon as they can rework the withholding schedules, they're going to have more money in their paycheck. They have been told over and over again that this is a tax the poor to pay for tax cuts for the rich. They're going to get a tax cut. They're going to see it tangibly. And the first thing they ought to do is call up Chuck Schumer and say, where's my tax increase?
I like that. All right. So explain this to us.
Where is it?
Yeah, where is that tax increase you promised me? And this is what we've been talking about all week, is that this has been the tale of two stories here, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. I mean, you've got the left just screaming, this is the worst bill that's ever been introduced to the floor, I heard yesterday. And then the Republicans saying, it's a tax cut. It's a tax cut for almost everybody. How do you have such differing opinions here? I mean, what is going on?
Well, basically, they're opposing anything that Donald Trump supports. You know, Donald Trump could finally find the formula that turns lead into gold, and they'd call it sorcery. This is nothing new. Nothing new at all. This is the Kennedy tax cut redux. What happened to the Democratic Party and their heritage? You know, two of the most effective presidents they have had were Kennedy and LBJ at boosting the economy. Both cut taxes. This is right out of that playbook.
So what we do know is there are going to be 7 individual tax brackets. A lot of the conversation was that there was actually going to be fewer than that, but here we are left with 7, and you can see them on your screen. There's also going to be 7 joint tax brackets. So break this down for us. What's your opinion on this?
Well, it really doesn't matter whether we have 4 brackets or 7 brackets. What matters is whether the taxes are lower. And across the board, Americans will face brackets that lower their taxes. The only real losers are going to be people with lots of state and local tax deductions. But in reality, the good folks in New York City, they make $500,000, $1 million a year. The Upper West Side, where the average income bumps up near to $1 million a year, they've been subsidized all these years by the poor folks in Broome County, New York, which is in Appalachia, and where people are making $40,000 a year. If they want a big, bloated New York City government, then they ought to pay for it. They shouldn't ask those poor working folk in Broome County to pay for it. Everyone else is going to get a cut.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the perspective that we've been hearing all week is why are the rich being subsidized in these deep blue states with these huge inflated governments that have all of these different advantages that other places don't have. Let me ask you something, though. I mean, the left says this is they're calling out this number that says 83% of the tax cuts are going to, I think, the top 1% or the richest of the rich. Give me your perspective on that argument.
Well, the thing is, rich folk pay a lot more taxes now. After the tax bill is passed, they're still going to pay 30% of their income in taxes. Federal taxes. On top of that, they're going to pay another 5-10% in state taxes, whereas people near the bottom are going to pay 2%, 3%, 5%. This is a very fair tax bill. If you're paying more taxes, you're going to get a bigger cut. But the point is, proportionally, poorer folks have got big cuts.
All right, Peter, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your insight.
8 out of 10 people getting a tax cut.
Yep,
That's
more than that.
we should take for it. More than that, according to Peter Marisa here. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. 19 minutes after the hour, heightened holiday security. ISIS.
And our large immigrant population doesn't scare her away. But the reaction, not all negative. One parent writing, my son Nicholas Guzman is a NECA student, and you talked to him today, and he's so excited about it. It's something he will never forget. Thank you, Ivanka. But it wasn't just parents. Some teachers said they didn't know Ivanka was coming either, and they were worried when they saw heavy security outside the school. Bottom line is, though, she made a good surprise to visit some great students.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much. It is a very interesting topic, and we wanted to dive a little further into it. We asked everybody out there, should parents be allowed the option to pull their kids from school if they don't agree with who is visiting? And Tammy on Twitter says, yes, it is ultimately a parent's choice. They are minors. I personally don't agree, but if I felt strongly enough, I would.
Maureen on Facebook says, and we wonder why there are so many snowflakes in this country, parenting at its worst.
And Marianne on Facebook says she is the daughter of our president, like it or not, who has and is doing wonderful things. A chance of a lifetime, something to remember for life and share with their children and grandchildren. Get over yourselves.
Wow, some pretty strong opinions there. It is 25 minutes after the hour. Democrats say the Republican tax plan just makes the rich even richer.
The very, very wealthy, the highest spectrum, get almost all the benefits. Some bill for the middle class.
Is it really the case, though? Fox News political editor Chris Steyerwalt explains exactly how this will create jobs and growth.
Or be the end of the world. We shall see. And an extraterrestrial moment at the White House press briefing.
I actually want to ask about UFOs. Several media reports this week disclosed that. Sorry.
I was going to say.
So does the president believe in UFOs? The out of this world answer coming up.
Back with a Fox News alert. The Senate making history overnight. The first major rewrite of the U.S. tax code in 31 years, clearing a major hurdle.
And just one small one to go. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, where there is still some work to be done before the president can sign this bill. Right, Griff?
Not quite ready, guys, but it is on the way to the president's desk in a matter of hours, actually. The president's already tweeting. He's praising the passage and its repeal of Obamacare's individual mandate, and he notes that it has one more stop in the House, announcing if approved, there will be a news conference at the White House at approximately 1 p.m. We'll see if that happens. I'm not sure. Things can change. It is Washington, but history was made shortly before 1 a.m. with that bill passing straight down party lines and Vice President Pence presiding over it. At times, guys, it was very passionate. Here's Senator Cruz.
Let me ask my friends on the Democratic side of the aisle, are you prepared to look in the eyes of a kid with disability and explain why you said you are cut out? You're really standing up, raising that objection. That ought to be 100-0. All of us should agree on that.
Democrats wasting no time slamming it. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
The Republican tax bill is like pouring gasoline on a raging fire. And though the Republican propagandists may call its passage a political victory, that a year from now, Republicans will be running away from this bill in shame for voting yes.
It even attracted some protesters who came into the gallery last night as all of this happened. But Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says this is an important accomplishment.
My view of this, if we can't sell this to the American people, we ought to go into another line of work. I think this is an important accomplishment for the country.
So here's where it stands, guys. The Senate had to make minor changes, including the title of the bill itself, so it would fit their budget rules. But it will go to the House sometime around noon today with this modified version and expected to quickly pass, then over to the president's desk. And the big takeaway here, guys, is, as the Tax Policy Center has said, it would be a tax cut for some 80% of Americans as early as next year.
Very soon. All right. A few weeks away, maybe. I think February 1st by chance. All right, Griff, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, another key talking point for Democrats is that the bill is intended to make the rich even richer. Fox News politics editor Chris Steyerwalt says it's true that some of the wealthiest Americans will see some tax breaks, but there's no doubt that the biggest winners are the middle-class Americans.
What will happen is that the simply wealthy, their share will go up, and part of it is this business about state, local income taxes, people who are in high tax states, people who are da-da-da. So here we're talking about just regular rich people, the 250,000 and up club. These folks, they're going to pay some more. But the insanely rich, the crazy rich, the lighting their cigars with $100 bills on private jets rich, they are going to get bigly breaks. They are going to get nice, all sorts of good stuff. The whole point of this bill is to dump a bunch of liquidity into the top in the hopes that that trickles down into the rest of the economy, and that the very wealthy and that corporations take the money that they're getting back and that they're going to invest it, and that's going to create jobs and growth. That's what they're banking on. That's what the Republicans have all their chips on.
The bill is expected to pass for a second time when it heads back to the House this morning, and then lawmakers pivot toward keeping the government funded past this Friday's deadline. Rob?
All right, another Fox News alert now. ISIS making yet another chilling threat of a holiday terror attack, this time targeting New Year's Eve celebrations. Propaganda posters like this one sending the message, quote, "Wait for us on your year parties." And they show two heavily armed terrorists, as you can see here. No royal visit for President Trump. The commander-in-chief will not meet the Queen during a trip to London in February. Instead, he'll only meet with Prime Minister Theresa May for a working visit. Earlier this year, more than 1 million people signed a petition to have a full state visit canceled. The president not too popular in parts of England. During the trip, the president will also open the new U.S. Embassy. It's supposed to be beautiful there in London.
While you were sleeping, crews leveling what was left of the Georgia Dome. The second implosion of the former home of the Atlanta Falcons, bringing down 2 walls left standing after the initial blast. Nearly 5,000 pounds of explosives were used in the first explosion last month. Well, it's a Christmas tree unlike any other. This one sticking out of a pothole in Mississippi. Neighbors say they were fed up with it not getting repaired, so they decided to decorate it.
It's a funny way to voice our frustration with the conditions of the road.
They even placed a sign on the tree, as you can see, wishing people a Merry Christmas. From our sinkhole to yours, it says. The city is now working to make repairs. Gotta love the humor in that.
That is funny. All right, let's go to a check of the weather now. Janice, I was thinking about hitting the pool today.
No.
What are the chances?
You could go indoors, I think. You know what? It is weirdly warm across the East Coast. I'm not going to lie. And heading into the weekend, it's still going to be warm, but then the change is going to come. What goes up must come down. Let's take a look at those current temperatures. 48 here in New York City. I mean, you could go for a dip in the pool. 32 in Chicago, 21 in Minneapolis, as long as you take pictures, Rob. 54 in Raleigh, 55 in Dallas. Jeez. Right? I mean, come on. All right, here's the past 24 hours. You see the potential for heavy rain across the southeast, the Mississippi and Tennessee River Valley, and our next big storm system moving into the northwest, bringing feet of snow. So those are the areas we're going to watch not only today, but heading into the weekend for travel problems as this system brings continuous snow across the northern tier of the country, and it's going to be warm enough for a lot of rain across places across the south. So there's your travel delay forecast for Friday. Tennessee River Valley, Mississippi River Valley, maybe New England, and then Saturday, the busy travel day, northeast coast needs to watch for the potential of travel delays. Too warm for snow, but that is going to change as we get into Christmas. Maybe a white Christmas here in New York City. We'll have to wait and see. I like your selfies, Rob.
I like your fancy shoes,
You
Janice.
like my fancy shoes?
I do.
The sparkly ones. They hurt my feet, but they look good.
But they look good. All right, thanks, Janice.
It's always that way, isn't it? Janice, thank you so much. Well, have you ever wondered what a day in the life of Jillian is like?
Very boring.
I can tell you that right now. Well, now you can find out for yourself. Jillian was recently interviewed by the Philadelphia Inquirer in an article that was just published. It's titled Jillian Mealy, A Day in the Life of a Fox News Host.
Yes, and you know, thank goodness they were following me along my work day, which is way more exciting than my personal day.
That's right. Exactly.
In the article, I did spill the beans that Rob likes to text me emojis of, you know, the grandmother.
The little old
because
lady
he calls
on the
me
emoji.
a grandmother because I'm boring and do nothing. So, but anyway,
we got to get her out of the house. Somebody take this girl out, show her a good time, take her out for a night on the town. She likes
pathetic.
nice restaurants.
Oh my gosh, we got to go. But thank you to Rob Torno for writing that article.
If you can keep her out past 11, I'll give you $100.
All right, another Clinton cash scandal, Hillary campaign, oh my God, I hate you, and the DNC, I can't talk, now accused of running a massive corrupt money scheme. The brand new slush fund just uncovered. Wow.
And America Strong, the awesome new photos showing just how tough our troops really are.
And there are only 4 shopping days until Christmas, but you still...
All right, welcome back. Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee now at the center of another alleged scheme here. A brand new complaint filed with the Federal Election Commission alleges that the Hillary Victory Fund solicited cash, a lot of cash, from big name donors and then sent it through state chapters of the party and then back to the DNC before it finally ended up with the Clinton campaign and all the money that they raised to try to get her elected president. Here now to react to this is the author of Clinton Incorporated and contributing editor for the Washington Free Beacon, Daniel Halper. Daniel, explain this to us in a way we can understand exactly what is wrong with what she's alleged to have done here and what the party is alleged to have done here.
So the allegations here are that Hillary Clinton raised money for various state organizations, Democratic parties throughout the country, through her Hillary Victory Fund, and that all the money that she helped raise for these state basically went through the DNC right back to her campaign coffers, hence violating the law that one could only give $2,700 in support of her campaign last year, which of course applied equally to both candidates. So in a way, it's a little complicated, of course, but there are various laws that prevent the maximum, prevent giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to a single candidate. Instead, you give only a couple $1,000s. This appears to have been some sort of violation of that. And I think what we're seeing is not just an accusation against Hillary Clinton, though it is. We're seeing a really test of the campaign finance laws and perhaps a push to change the campaign finance laws at a national level.
Yeah, and in her defense, you were saying that this is something that a lot of politicians most likely are doing and are doing. But this is just where she got kind of caught here. And so basically, you're saying there's a limit on how much you can give to to a national campaign, to a presidential campaign, and they skirt around it by sending it through the state chapter, and then it ends up in her pocket anyways. And these are big name donors. The guy that created Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane, was one of the guys that donated, I think, a pretty handsome amount of money, right?
Yeah, there was a few big name donors, and they have these, remember the big campaign stops throughout the Hamptons and throughout California that Hillary Clinton had last year, where they would raise millions and millions of dollars. A lot of that money wasn't directly going to Hillary Clinton. It was going to these state campaigns, these state Democratic parties, and then going back to her. And the allegations, by the way, they seem to be boosted, of course, by the interim chair of the DNC, Donna Brazile, who wrote in her book about how this money worked, actually, and how the money went to the state Democratic parties, went back to the national party, then went back to Hillary Clinton's campaign coffers, and she was then directing how that money was spent. I think, now that Congress is getting legislative accomplishments done, this is something that they might look at. They might say, this is a real arcane way of spending money and allowing people the freedom to give to political causes that they want. Why not just get rid of this whole ruse and allow people just to transparently give to the causes they want to give to, instead of having these arcane laws?
Couldn't you swing it the other way and say, I personally think that it's really bad that we have such an egregious amount of money in our political system, that Hillary Clinton, they raised, I think, $1 billion in all and spent it towards this campaign. It's so much money that our politicians are always indebted to their big donors, and that's why they are pawns for the wealthy. And I think that's a real big issue that I think Donald Trump addressed with his populist message of, no more of this. I'm a billionaire. I don't owe anybody anything. I want to do this without coming in and having to pay back all these people that got me into office.
Definitely, but there's two sides to that argument. When you do put limits onto the amount people spend, then you get this creation of all this dark money. So then all this dark money comes around, and you don't see where it's coming from. You don't see where it's going. So look, it's a complicated argument, but I think this complaint done by people who were formerly anti-Hillary Clinton is a serious complaint in that it will shed light on this system and allow for a debate as to whether or not there should be less restrictions on what the campaign finance and whether or not there should be more transparency to the process, which I think a lot of people would actually agree with.
Yeah, well, it's another embarrassment for Hillary Clinton because she already outspent Trump by quite a bit of money. She had the DNC in her pocket. They cheated Bernie out of the nomination, and now that $1 billion sounds like it's even more because there was some hidden money that was spent as well. So thank you so much for bringing that to light and getting up early with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Great to be here.
All right.
Time's running out. Just a few days left until Christmas. Have you finished your shopping yet? If not, you're in luck. Skip Adele has some last-minute ideas for everyone on that list.
But first, let's check in with Steve Doocy. Hey, Steve, what's coming up?
Let's make this snappy. I got to do some shopping after the show, okay? Hey, good morning to you, Rob, and Jillian as well. Coming up, Andrew McCabe, the deputy director of the FBI, was in the hot seat up on Capitol Hill for nearly 8 hours yesterday. What on earth did they ask him about? We have a pretty good idea. Were there leaks? Stick around. Also, did you hear? The Senate passed the sweeping tax reform bill, and because of a procedural hiccup, the House is going to have to vote on theirs again later on today. We've got a great guest lined up to talk about just that. Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, you can see screen right, and Ted Cruz, Senator from the great state of Texas. Also, David Bossie and Corey Lewandowski to talk about all things political, and we got plenty to do. Fox and Friends kicks off just about 13 minutes from right now, right here in the
awesome pictures that we have. 400 U.S. and South Korean Marines going shirtless in frigid temperatures in the snow for military drills. Some Marines carrying out weapons drills while skiing down a mountain. These guys are tough. The two sides even wrestling with each other in the snow for a team building exercise as temperatures dipped to 4 degrees below zero. That is how you get strong. The joint drills come less than 2 months before the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang in South Korea, not to be confused with Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, of course. All right, strange occurrences at the White House after a reporter asks if President Trump believes in aliens.
I actually want to ask about UFOs. Several media reports this week disclosed that. Sorry.
I was going to say, I feel like I already want to pass on this question, given that you've got aliens sitting among you.
All right, the question coming after reports that the Pentagon has been investigating UFOs since 2007. As for the president, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says she'll check in on the president to see what his opinion is and get his take on whether he believes in extraterrestrials. I believe, and I think Jillian does too.
I do. Okay, hey, you like my jacket that I have here? So just a couple of days left until Christmas. If you're a procrastinator, like myself, haven't finished yet, like myself, or even started your shopping yet, you are in luck. Home contractor and host of Catch a Contractor, Skip Adele, here with the best last-minute gifts. All right, this thing is warm. I am toasty. Tell me about this.
Toasty? So it's Christmas, only a few days left. If you haven't found the right gift, on my site, skipadele.com, I have links to all these great things. You can get them in time for Christmas. Starting out, one of my favorite brands, DeWalt. We all know them for the toughest tools, but they also have great products pretty much for everybody. Like this heated jacket we're wearing.
This is heated, by the way.
It's unbelievable. You can wear this at the ball game, tailgating, camping. You can wear it anywhere. So anybody would love to have this in the cold weather.
Wait, aside from it being heated, can I tell you the inside is the softest material I've ever felt?
It's got a hood. I mean,
it's crazy.
They make unbelievable stuff. Like these great work boots, Kevlar, steel toe, awesome gloves, glasses. Even this table. This thing is great because you can take it tailgating, take it camping. One push of a button, you have a workstation that holds up to 1,000 pounds.
Nice.
Unbelievable. Talking about campsites and tailgating, check out this insulated cooler. So this thing will keep your things cold for days and days on end. This is
there's not enough space in there. They
make all different sizes. This is the only one I can fit on the table.
Got it.
So great for the campsite. We got battery-operated fans, power station. This thing is amazing. So this will charge up to 4 batteries at one time. But when you take it from the house, you plug it in on the campsite, you can run all your electronics. So tailgating, you're running all your electric stuff. It's like a generator.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Even the battery operated work lights, all these things can go with you wherever you're going, camping, tailgating, you name it.
Well, DeWalt's normally known for their tools, right?
DeWalt has, yes, they're the toughest tools on the planet. And for the tool lovers, it's unbelievable what they got. Check this out. For $20, you get a 30-foot, this is a laser measurer. So you point and click.
Here, point it this way so people can see.
You get a digital measurement up to 30 feet. That's a great little stocking stuffer.
Wow.
Even this XB tape measure. So what makes this different? This is super durable. You can drop it from up to 60 feet.
Here.
It will not crash.
That thing is heavy.
Right? And it's got.
Wait, hold on. Let the people look. You're getting all excited on me.
I know, it's tools. We're talking about tools at Christmas time. It's got a standout bigger than any tape out there. This thing is unbelievable. So you can put this right in the stocking stuffer. Talking about the rest of their tools, you got nail guns, saws. This thing is awesome. So check this out. This is an air compressor, but it runs on batteries.
That thing is smaller than a lot of air compressors I've seen, by the way.
You don't have to plug it in. You take it wherever you want.
Is it loud?
It's battery operated. I turn it on if you want to hear it.
I had one go off in the middle of the night at my place once, and that scared
not bad, right?
the crap out of me.
No cord required. So for the tech lovers, we got Amazon Echo. This is generation 1, but right now, check out generation 2. They're smaller with better quality speakers. They come with all different finishes like wood grain, fabrics, textures.
What about for the pet lovers?
So for the pet lovers, I have tons of stuff. So pet lovers, this thing's amazing. This is the PetLink Pet Cube. You can hang this on the wall, plug it in. It's got an HD video camera. So while you're at work or on vacation, you can see and talk to your pets.
And you can give them treats.
You press a button on your smartphone, it spits a treat out.
I love it.
Are you kidding me? Come on. We got from Home Depot the Ring Video Doorbell. And also for the pet lovers, listen, this is GPS tracking locator. If your pet should get lost or leaves the yard, you put this on their collar. You can track them anywhere on your smartphone. All the pet lovers are going to love to get that as a gift.
How about the ladies?
Listen, lastly, but I got to tell you, my wife tells me, maybe you know, this is the best thing as far as hair curling iron go. This is motorized, so it's from Chi. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
I like it just because it has a motor.
And it doesn't have the full clamp up top here.
No, you clip it on, you press the button, then it spins.
We got to go. Where can people get these gifts?
SkipBedell.com. I got links to these products and so many other things.
And they'll be delivered by Christmas?
In time for Christmas. Go now, hit the button, click.
All right. This thing's warm, I'm hot, I'm taking it off. We'll be right back.